And welcome to another show of Tampa Fishing Outfitters Radio, 1040 The Team. I'm Captain Rick Liles with Captain Travis Yaeckel here today. The big boy Jason's out, having a little knee issues, but we're here regardless. Travis and I, and he's actually left me out here solo for a minute, but we're gonna try to walk you through some fishing, what's happening in the area. At the time, what we expect to be happening, and we got some good products in here tonight that we're gonna share with you and kind of promote a little bit. But it is Sunday the 2nd, if you're listening on the radio, and if you're on the Facebook live broadcast, you know it's Wednesday evening. So anyway, I just lost something here. I lost headphones. I can't.
Keep rolling. You're good.
Are we good? Okay, because I'm not hearing it. I'm not hearing it.
He's not hearing it.
We're back. We're back.
We're
All
back.
right. I must have pulled the cord loose there or something. But anyway, how about it, Trav?
What's happening, baby? Another day.
Another day, baby.
We are here.
And it was tough getting here today. We had some detours. We had some traffic, and other than that, though, we made it.
We made it.
Let's talk some fishing.
Yes, sir. What's been good, baby?
What's been good? Well, nothing's been great, but there's been a few things good. The mackerel bite's decent, and the snook bite is not bad. But it's, for me anyway, it has been in very few places.
The snook.
Very few places where you can go catch, 10 or 12, 15 snook. And there's a lot of places that are onesies and twosies. And, they're just not wanting to eat, whether it be the heat or, I think a lot of this rain has moved some of the fish that I was fishing because of the influx of fresh water. But no, the trout fishing's been okay. Not good by no means. Yeah, you was telling me that on the way. We're just fishing trout in different places, but but the trout that I've been catching haven't really posted no big sizes.
Yeah.
Of fish. I think today we caught 3 trout today. Biggest fish was, I don't know, 17 and a half inches.
You been fishing with them little potato chip baits?
I've been catching a lot of potato chip baits. I haven't been fishing with them. No.
Those are more. I guess they're more like Fritos.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been chumming with them.
They're great,
but have not been putting them on the hook.
Well, for me, and I know you and I have been talking about it, but the mangrove snapper, mackerel, sharks, everything, all that bay fishing is really turned on.
And see, and
to that point,
what you're saying about the mangrove snappers, we're reverse roles here with the trout. I can't find the mangrove snapper that are going off. I seen some today.
Never mind. I've been out there catfishing.
That's what I've been doing. I went to a couple of the old faithful spots this time of year for the mangroves and catch a few. And I didn't catch any, but trips, earlier in the week, what have you. But I don't know if I'm at the
last 2
right
days,
place, the wrong time, or wrong place, right time, or wrong place at the wrong time. But I'm not cleaning. I'm not cleaning any snapper.
The last couple days, historically this time of year, for a lot of the folks and the listeners out there that don't know, that the mangrove snapper will start to spawn in June and July. And out in the bay, on some of the rock piles, some of the edges of the channels, anywhere that you've got some deep structure. And normally what I've found, Rick, is that when there's bait around, and I'm not just talking about thread fins, but even this smaller white baits, crazy enough, and I keep going back to the Lowrance, but there's been a lot of small, tiny fry baits on the bottoms of the channels.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if anybody else has seen it, like in terms of actually sitting there looking at it and kind of realize what they're looking at. But, several parts of the channel inside Tampa Bay, and the main shipping channel, Port Manatee channel, all the way up to Gandy. Some of the spots that we've been fishing, as I'm fishing, I'm looking on the bottom machine, and I'm seeing piles and piles of bait down there. And I know it's glass minnows, just because I
See,
trust my machine.
I'm
or not glass spindles, but baby, fry baits.
right.
They're greenbacks.
That's what I haven't seen and haven't been in the channel. I'm fishing other places.
Yeah, some
fishing
rock
piles and
yeah.
But no, I haven't fished the channel at all.
Well, there's some good spots even out by the Skyway Bridge. That's another area that we normally go target mangrove snappers. The problem out there is you get the dolphins, and you and I were talking about on the way over to radio is how everything has sort of adapted to fishermen. I mean, the birds, the dolphins, the sharks, the big stingrays. I got a spot I fish, and I'm telling you, old Willie's going to show up at some point.
Every time. Yes. I may know Willie. know Willie.
And they go, oh, look at that stingray. Yeah, he's my pet. I'm going to start. One day I'm going to reach under and snatch his barb out and start charging people. I'm going to set him on his back, on their back and stuff, But anyway, no. So my point is that the areas that I'm fishing, there's been an influx of small fry baits.
Right.
And I think that is part of why I'm catching snapper in those areas. Where I was going a second ago was in the last 2 days is the first couple days that I've actually gotten the fish to lift. Where you see a school of snapper come up and they're in a ball,
right?
And you can kind of we'll free line baits back to them. It's a lot like yellowtail snapper fishing, in the Keys or offshore. But you'll see the ball of fish come up, and a lot of people will look for the red or they'll look for. It's almost like a faint brown. It almost looks like poop.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not as bright as what you may think, at least in the areas. Yeah. In my experiences with it.
Sometimes it does give you that red hue.
If they get up close to the boat, I think you'll see them more red. But my point is that when you see them and they're back behind the boat and you see little brown, orangish brown marks just kind of going. That there's normally a lot of them. When you're starting to see they're actually brown backs and they lift, there's quite a few of them. But in the last couple of days, we've really started to see that, and I'll attribute that to a lot of chum.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's kind of neat the way that when our snapper fishing starts getting good is when we start getting these little baits.
100%.
And what you're saying, I caught a ton of the small baits today, and then a lot of good usable baits for mackerel fishing, snook fishing kind of thing. But when I did try to get some snapper today, I just had handfuls of these little guys I was throwing out there, and I did see what you're talking about. I did start to see that cloud of snapper come up. I had to chum them quite a bit before. In fact, I was about ready to give up and say, okay, they're not here. And then out of nowhere, I mean, literally 100 jacks come in, and I mean they just lifted through, because I was seeing a little bit of the red and the flash out there, and okay, here they come. We got the snapper coming in, because it was right when I first got to this spot that I was fishing, and I mean out of nowhere, literally is 100 jacks, and they just, I mean they were eating everything. That
were they like little, probably like 3-pounders? Or were they pretty big ones?
No, they were small. They I don't even know if they would have made 3 pounds. I mean, that's probably about accurate. But after they came through and just ate everything, I never could get the snapper back, and never got the jacks back. And we caught some mackerel and left. But I know what you're saying. But we're just in different spots right now. If you're listening, go to Chip's channel. Don't go to the rock piles, because Travis' success has been better than mine on snapper.
Well, it's just one of those things. I start moving towards fishing the bay. I mean, I bay fish in general, and the guys even asked me today. They go, well, and they were open for whatever, and they said, well, tell us. We want to go catch fish. We want to go catch as much fish as we can. Have the best action that we can. And that was the biggest part of it, was getting out there doing some bay fishing. That water, guys, has been like 92, 93 degrees on inshore. It's hot. If you're not hitting it early in the morning, or you're not hitting it later in the afternoon, evening, which here the last week we've had hill tides. So it's been pretty good on the inshore bite. I haven't fished a whole lot of it. I've been doing some tarpon and bay fishing, but a couple of guys that I talked to on a regular basis gave me a pretty good report inshore. In the afternoon, evening, the last couple hours of that outgoing tide, fishing the ponds, fishing the outside of the bars where everything's falling off. And a lot of that is due to a lot of this smaller fry bait getting pushed off, and it gets pushed off to the edges of these bars, and the trout and the snook and the reds just annihilate it.
Well, and something else with that, we haven't had a whole lot of wind here in the last few days.
The last few days, yeah.
No, we haven't.
No, I'm saying last week was.
Yeah, no, but I'm talking about
sailing.
Here, and yeah, but and I have no scientific data or anything to back this up.
Say it ain't so.
Say it ain't so. But I just don't think in shallow water fish eat when it's glassy. I think
it's tough.
They need that wind breaking that water up. Fish don't have eyelids, and that's just straight sun beaming in on them. And I think it's a lot tougher to get a bite going then. Afternoon, you can go back. You can go back with the same tide later in the afternoon when you get those long shadows and the sun's on the horizon versus straight up, and you can get them on that slick water.
100%.
But during the middle of the day, slick water's so tough for me anyway. And
100%.
I can't prove what my theory on that is, but it's just experience that I've had, and it just ain't working for me.
A lot of the inshore stuff, and we're gonna have to take a break here in a second, guys. But a lot of the stuff I've been doing inshore, I've been kind of timing it. We've been hitting it just right, going in there on that higher tide, and I'm fishing strictly under the bushes, fishing for those fish that are laid up under the bushes in the shade, because a lot of the fish I'm finding out in the middle, out in the potholes that are kind of moving around are transitioning. They're not really sitting there to eat. They're more moving either to the deeper water or they're moving in to get up under the bushes.
Get that safety.
There's not a lot of fish just sitting out, in the middle.
And if you are going to fish the flats and in the deeper parts of the flats on that on the higher water, which is makes me think of trout.
Yeah.
Get that float off.
Yep.
Get that float off.
They're not wanting to come to the surface.
Let those baits get down. And it goes right to my line of thinking. Goes right back to that sun and the slick water. Let that bait get down there where there's more buffer of water between the fish and the sun. So anyway,
between the fish and the sun.
Between the fish and the sun.
Got a buffer between the fish and the sun, boys.
You got to have a buffer.
Well, guys, we're gonna take a little break. We appreciate everybody joining in. For all you guys that don't know, we actually can take some phone calls. The number is.
Absolutely.
Right up there.
1-866-977-4820.
That's it. Give us a call, guys. We'll answer some questions, or if you just got a fishing report, we'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, we're going to take a little break, pay some bills, and when we get back, we'll be talking more fishing. You're listening to Tampa Fishing Outfitters radio show on Sports Talk 1040 The Team. We'll be right back. Back. You're listening to Tampa Fishing Outfitters radio show on Sports Talk 1040 The Team. We are in the house. Captain Rick Liles, Captain Travis Yaeckel, holding it down. Old Jason Prieto is gone again.
He slipped. He slipped.
He slipped on a banana peel
in his boat.
And no, he didn't. It wasn't a banana peel, but no, he bummed his knee up, and he's at the doctor's trying to get it checked out to get back on the water. So. We're in here covering and talking a little fishing. Real quick, I wanted to talk about one thing, and I'm going to kind of buzz through it throughout the show, but hookup lures. I know a lot of the guys and gals out there fishing may have never heard of this company, but we've been working with them for a long time, and here recently, last week, we actually did a little photo shoot. We took a lot of still shots, and we got some cool video. We got some drone footage, snapper fishing in Tampa Bay. And we strictly used all hookup lure jigs, and we had a great time, man. They actually perform and work really well for snapper fishing. We caught grouper, we caught gag grouper, we caught red grouper, we caught mackerel, we caught snapper. We went inshore, caught trout, caught snook. We even tried catching a couple smaller tarpon back up in the little tarpon estuary. But it was a good day, and we really wanted to highlight the hookup lures They've been a big sponsor, supporter of us on the Redfish Tournament Trail and also in my charter business. My cousin Josh used to actually tie flies for Hank Brown down in Islamorada, or tie bucktails. And that's how we kind of connected years back. And Gambler Lures actually bought the company and have really trying to make some strides in the saltwater game to kind of bring it all back. But go check them out, Hook Up Lures. It's an awesome lure. And a lot of, real quick before we get into your weather, Rick, some people, I'll tell them about Hookup and they go, oh yeah. And I go, well, what do you think the name Hookup means and where does it come from? And it's really unique because the name Hookup doesn't have to do with hooking fish and catching fish. It has to do with the way that the hook always stays up on the jig. Mm-hmm. The way that the design of the jig keeps the hook up and helps you navigate through grass, oysters, barnacles, rocks, things like that. And we've really this is our exclusive jig head that we'll use on Redfish Tournament Trails, throwing a lot of soft plastics. And the cool thing is they come all the way from 16th all the way up to half ounce, which good. Not a lot of, not a lot of them go that low or that high. And so it's a great tool to have in your tool bag when you're out there doing some artificial or even live bait or cut bait fishing on the bottom. So I'll put them up on the screen one more time.
And these are the ones that Travis really prefers.
That's and those are my favorites. Hey, grouper, smash them things, man. Don't be hating.
I ain't hating.
Don't be hating. Well, we got a couple guys listening, so we're gonna give a little shout out. What we got? We got Mickey, we got Steve, we got Kelly. We appreciate you guys watching. If you want to call in and ask us a question, we'd love to try to answer it for you. Or if not, as Jason says, we'll make something up.
That's right. Hey, if we don't know the answer, we'll make something up.
But give us some weather, Rick.
All right. This is for Sunday the 2nd, and as always, is brought to you by the Alify Marine and the good folks there, and Beagle, Megan, Jesse, and the gang. But yeah, they're good to us, and it's a great place to have your boat worked on. But anyway, to the tides and the weather here, we got the tides for Sunday. The high's at 1021. It's a 1.67. The low is at 628. It's a 0.52. 89 is the high on weather to temp. The low is 77. Mostly sunny with scattered thunderstorms later. Northwest winds 5 to 10, and a 60% chance of rain later in the day. So
nice. And back to you, Trav.
No. Give us the traffic report.
Oh man. Well, hopefully, Rick, that weather holds out. We got a trip on Sunday.
Yeah, we got a little 2-boat deal,
which is today if you're on radio.
Yep.
But Mike asked about the mackerel, and we were kind of talking a little bit about it in the first part of the show there, Mike, so you missed it. But the mackerel fishing's been really good inside the bay. The thing that I would suggest is look for threadfin schools. Start there and kind of dial it in. A lot of the times when I'm looking for mackerel, and I think you do the same thing, Rick, because sometimes I'll idle around and actually just look for them free jumping.
Yeah.
And they will. They'll literally jump out of the water, free jumping on bait, eating, and those are the ones you want to go fish. Those are the ones that'll play.
Now you had some, and I know you're going to talk about this in the next segment. You had some jumping in the boat today. Actually jumped in the boat.
Those were feisty ones.
They weren't free jumping, but they come slingshotting in.
We had them. We had some slingshotters today. Well,
y'all stay tuned to the next segment for the come on, man. He's gonna lighten you.
Oh my goodness, man. But no, anyway, Mike. So there have been a lot of mackerel in the bay. Bait of choice has either been cut bait. You can net up some thread fins and cut those up. They'll also eat shrimp. It's another one that people don't really realize, but a lot of times, or sometimes, I'll bring shrimp with me for snapper fishing sometimes. Mm-hmm. It's some of the stuff that I'll freeze during the winter when we'll get it. And more often than not, a little piece of shrimp, either frozen shrimp or a little cut piece,
mackerel will annihilate them.
Inhale that stuff. So will the mangrove snapper. So if you're having trouble getting bait or you can't get bait, live shrimp will do the trick. I would recommend using pieces, though.
Yeah.
You're going to go through your shrimp faster. Yeah. There's no point in putting on a whole shrimp when you're mackerel fishing or snapper fishing. It's just not worth it.
Chop.
But yeah, find those mackerel if you've got bait. What we were talking about. We've normally have 3 or 4 guys on our boat, so we need a pretty good bite. We need pretty good action. So we chum a lot.
In a chum bag.
A chum bag will work as well.
Chum bag,
a store-bought frozen chum bag. Mm-hmm. Sling it over the side, and they'll come up. A key to me in finding good bay fishing, when you start chumming and skipjacks show up, and they start eating
Yeah.
your chum, the army's coming behind it. It's just that area. You know, when them skipjacks start eating chum, the cobia are gonna roll in, the snappers, the mackerels. Been quite a few bonnethead sharks out in the bay. Caught some sharp-nosed sharks. And if you're looking for stingrays, if that's your game, right now, baby. Right now, I'll put you on him.
Go get Willie.
Go get Willie. He's ready to eat. There's a lot of stingrays out there, especially if you're bottom fishing for grouper or whatever. You're gonna hook stingrays. It's gonna happen. But the bay fishing has been really good. I'm tarpon fishing all next week, so I'm gonna kind of lay low on some of the bay fishing, bottom fishing stuff. But Jason was getting a lot of keeper groupers. He was getting keepers. I haven't got a dadgum slot grouper
I haven't even tried.
in a week and a half, and I've been catching the snot out of peewees, man. We've caught red grouper, gag groupers.
You guys is deep water boys.
Hey, baby, come on down to my spot, baby. But no, the fishing outside of being really, really hot has been good. It hasn't really slowed us down. We've just made a move towards the bay. I hadn't been doing a whole lot of inshore stuff. I've been hitting it on the way back in. I'm on my way back in. I'll slide into a couple spots, save some live baits, and hit some holes. I'm not moving and working an area. I'm hitting my holes.
Right.
Whether it's gonna happen or it ain't gonna happen.
Don't stay long if it don't.
And we roll out. So that's what we've been doing. But
to your point, Mike, or to answer or to talk about what you've asked here, man, with mackerel, chum, especially this time of year. Now, in the springtime, when we first start seeing the mackerel, you don't have to chum as much. But right now, especially with all these fry baits, they don't have to go far or look hard to find something to eat right now.
Yeah.
So,
and the cool thing,
if you chum them, you get that's it's almost like Pavlov's theory with the dog. You start chumming, they can't resist it. That's right.
And to kind of expand on that too, Rick, because a lot of people don't know when you say chumming, there's several different ways, and there's times when I'll literally scoop them out of the live well, not even touch them, and fire them out there. There's times where I'll squeeze them. There's times where, like this morning, the way I snapper fished today, I got up early, I went out and filled up my 40-quart grizzly cooler with small, tiny fry greenbacks. The whole entire, slap full, put some ice in there, put some salt in there, brine them real good. And I took maybe a net and a half. I maybe had a net and a half, like 400 of the small ones. But I took about a net and a half of those guys, put them in the live well. So I had some live baits. And pretty much everything we caught today was on the stuff that came out of my cooler.
Is that right?
Yep. And what I was doing was I had my 40-quart grizzly sitting there, and I was hitting spots, and I'd take about 3 or 4 handfuls of those little baby greenbacks and pitch them one over this side, one over that side, one over that side. And I'd let it drift back. And I'd give it about 5 minutes, and I'd throw a couple more. Once I started seeing the fish, I started seeing some fish come up. It was like, I was like this, and I'm like, bait your own hooks, guys, because we got to keep them right here. And mangrove snapper fishing is kind of like that. You really got to keep those fish interested in you, particularly in the areas that I'm fishing. This is open water. Right. So them fish aren't just sitting on that.
And you're
area.
Getting like max flow on current there too.
Right. And part of that, a lot of guys are going to tell you that they like the incoming, they like the outgoing, they like this, they like that. But to be honest with you, man, for snapper fishing inside Tampa Bay and some of the deep slack.
Slow, yeah.
Slack, baby.
Just,
when that chum
I like it moving a little
just
bit.
Just a touch.
Because I want that chum
but there's
to go away from me.
There's not a lot of points and times in the day when the water's not doing something in the middle of the bay.
Right.
It's either going a little bit that way, a little bit you're getting wind or whatever.
I like that. I'm with you on that because then your baits can stay down there.
Right down. And I can bring the snapper up and get them closer. And with this technology we have with the Lowrance and the structure scan, I'm literally when it's on slack tide, you can actually see the little pieces of chum going down, and you can actually see the snapper coming up and eating it, under your boat, and you can drop straight down. Ray Van Horn asked a question, how's a cobia bite been? They've been around. They've been on the bars. Just about a week and a half ago, I was out netting up threadies on one of the local markers around Ruskin, and I'm pulling in a net of thread fins, and like a 40-pound cobia comes up and bites my net, and he's like holding on to it as I'm trying to pull it in. Captain Jason Thompson was with me. We spun back around, did it again. He hit it again, and of course we didn't have any rod and reels, so
Right.
we tried to hand line him. It didn't work, but we'll talk a little bit more about that, Ray, if you want to here in the next segment. But in the meantime, we're going to take a little break, pay some bills. When we get back, we're going to be talking more fishing, guys. You're listening to Tampa Fishing Outfitters radio show on Sports Talk 1040 The Team. Hold tight. We'll be right back.
And welcome back, Tampa.
And everywhere.
Tampa group and everybody else to Tampa Fishing Outfitters radio show.
We choked him up.
1040. Well, you got me watching the screen, and that just had me all flustered there. But anyway, welcome back. We was talking about Kobe before the break, and Ray Van Horn had asked about that, and I don't know. I'm catching about one Kobe a week, and I've only caught one keeper all year. We caught one last week that was like it needed another quarter inch, and it would have been a keeper. But that's, I don't know. I'm not personally, when I catch a Kobe, it's kind of by accident. I don't go looking for him. I'm not the guy that
You don't have a tower. Honestly, man, it's hard without a tower.
Well, no,
it is.
You can do it. You can run around.
Run
around and go marker to marker to marker to marker.
Well,
and
I'm not.
that,
Yeah,
that's. If somebody wants to fish,
what is
Kobe,
that? I can stick my head up a butcher's butt, but
you don't have to.
I don't have to. I take his word for it. I just get on the tower and go look for him.
But anyway, yeah, there's a lot of cobia, and I see them, and in fact, we had two of them the other day that I pitched some baits to and couldn't get them to eat. But the cobia I'm seeing are all down around the port.
Yeah,
I mean that's
and I'll tell you,
and that's maybe because I mostly fish down that way right now, but I have been fishing other areas in the bay, but that's where I've seen the cobia.
I'm waiting for that day, and Ray brings up a good point, because when we're talking about bay fishing, guys, and we're talking about getting out there with coolers full of cut bait or chum or whatever, and you're just letting her rip, you got 18,000 chum bags hanging out the side, and the big igloo full of bait, and there's no bait left in Tampa Bay because you got it on the back of your boat and you're chumming. It ain't gonna take long for one of them cobias to come up, and if you're not ready, you probably won't get him. But more than likely, they're gonna eat that little bait, that little snapper bait that flew back there, and he's just sucking them in like a Hoover.
Yeah, and more than likely, if there's two of them there or three of them there, you're going to catch the littlest one. Yeah, every time.
It happens, man. But keep on the lookout for it. That's one of the things. I tell you, here's my normal setup. Because from clients and stuff, I guess I do it maybe a little different than everybody else, or
You do a lot of things different.
I do. But normally what I'll do is we'll free line snapper baits, right? So you got that. It's like rubbing your head and patting your hand.
Yeah.
So I'm free lining snapper baits. Everybody's happy. We're catching some fish. Well, then I go drop a bottom rig, right? You start making the soup. So I drop the bottom rig down, and that guy's sitting there. And then once we get a couple more snappers, right, then I throw a flat line out the back, right, with a cork on it, or even just a free line out the back with the bait runner on it, and just way out there, big thready. And if it's going down, I got two flat lines. I never put more than one bottom rig down when I've got guys snapper fishing. But all hell breaks loose.
Now I know what you were doing the other day, because I drove by you and you was, I saw that. He was rubbing his belly and patting his head. I didn't know you was cobia fishing, man.
I was cobia fishing, man. That's bay fishing. It's like, I'm ready for whatever. People get on my boat and they're like, what in the heck, what are we going to do today, Cal? I go, whatever comes up to the boat, brother. I mean, and when you're bay fishing, man, like, that's the way I am. You got to kind of have a little bit of everything. And that's my normal setup is, 2 to 3 rods, free line and back, a bottom rig, and a flat line on the surface. That's going to get you that big kingfish that strolls in. That's going to get you that big cobia that rolls by. the tarpon that ends up coming in under your chum slick, or the big gag that's just laying down there sucking up snappers. That's how you're going to get them. And all that excitement when those snappers start feeding and those mackerels are chomping on baits,
contagious.
Everything else comes to the party, man. It's a recipe for a bite. What do we got?
We got a question. How long do you chum and fish the spot before they show up? Before you figure there's none there moving? It's Matt also asked about I fish the public rock piles. I mean, I have no private spots out there, and I just fished. I usually ride around till I see a bunch of boats parked, and I ease on in there where they're at. But no, I fish. Everything I fish is just, it's on the charts. It's there's nothing secret about it. And as far as how long do you chum, I tell you what, Matt, there's been times that first full of chum hits the water and it don't even get down in the water column good, and they're up on top of you. And then like today, I had to chum, a fairly good amount today before I finally saw them come up. And in fact, I was almost to the point where I'm like, okay, they're not here. They're, not going to play. And then, and that was that. I don't know. I say a long time, 3 or 4 minutes. I mean, of me just steadily dropping baits. It can take a while, or it can be instant when you get there.
I'll tell you, and I'll add a little bit to it. And I'm gonna fall right back to Lowrance, man. I'm gonna fall right back to my bottom machine, because I've gotten to the point now with structure scan and using that down imaging stuff that I don't even there's some times where I'm looking, I've got another snapper on our boat, and I'm not even looking over the side. I know, because you start to grow faith in your equipment, especially you're fishing 20, 30, 40 feet. Sometimes if you're fishing in the channel, drifting back to the edge or something, you're fishing in 35, 40 feet of water. That gives you a really clear picture of what's going on underneath your boat. And if you've got a good bottom machine, you can actually see these snapper. They're going to be a little bit bigger, mark on your machine, and you're going to see them coming up, going down, coming up. They're going to go in and they're going to go out. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll start chumming, and I'll look for some activity underneath my boat. Something other than a school of threadfin, something other than some fry bait. I'm going to look for some different marks. Once I start to see that, then I start dialing in my chum, whether I chum a little bit slower. That's the other thing. Chumming is an art form. It's just like trying to catch bait. You're trying to put those fish where you want to fish them.
Exactly.
Okay? So on a strong current, whether it's incoming or outgoing, and you're just slamming chum to them, chances are those fish are 50 yards, maybe not 50 yards, but 60 feet behind your boat before they're actually eating. And the thing about snapper, and I learned this, like I said, fishing in the Keys, is they'll find a depth that they want to eat in, where that chum is just right, where they feel safe enough, whether it's coming up on the bottom or getting up to the surface, but they'll find a sweet spot. And once they find that sweet spot, that seems to be where they want to feed. There's times where I've been snapper fishing, and it gets to the point where I will literally go on the front of my boat, take a 5-gallon bucket, and start chumming and throwing handfuls of chum as far as I can off the front of my boat, so that when they get back and my guys are drifting, whether it's midship or at the aft of the boat, that they're getting into the zone. And you just got to play with that. But as far as knowing how long, there's two things. If you're seeing fish underneath you, you start trying different things. You go to the free line, you start adding a little bit of, you add a pinch weight, a split shot. Maybe you need to get down a little bit. If the current's ripping, your baits aren't going to drift down quite like they normally would if it was a little more slack. So you may want to put a little split shot on there just to get it down, and it's still not going to get to the bottom. We're talking about using very, very small baits, even for big snapper. A little 1.5-inch cut piece of a greenback works fine. It's perfect.
Right. And something else to keep in mind, snapper have fantastic eyes.
Oh, I mean, anybody that's been around a dock.
They you'll probably end up downsizing your leader and downsizing your hooks, and that's just part of it. Spend the time to do it. Yeah. And you'll be beneficial to do that, because they if you roll in there with your snook stuff, you might catch a few, but you're not gonna do well.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I don't know if we answered your question in full there, Matt, but as far as time, I would say about 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That, if I'm pulling up dry and I'm going to go check on some snapper or an area or whatever, I'm going to give it about 15 or 20 minutes normally is about what I'll give. Now that's if there's life.
That's a long time.
That to me, that's
Yeah.
if there's life. If I'm seeing fish,
Right.
if you know what I mean, or if maybe it's a spot that I've been to or before. And the only reason I say that is, man, and you hit the nail on the head is when he said, all of a sudden.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, oh yeah.
And,
it was
snapper fishing can be like that, where you start chumming and these fish are laying in rock holes and they're kind of laying around just chilling on. If anybody's ever dived, you'll know what I'm talking about. Those fish will just kind of hover around on the bottom in little schools. Well, then all of a sudden they'll all start feeding, and it's a feeding frenzy.
Yeah, they're not.
And
They're
sometimes
not in that ball before you get there.
No.
They're not swimming around in a big ball.
No, they're laying, 3-4 here, 3-4 there in little schools, doing their deal on whatever structure they're on, and eventually they'll ball up and start feeding. And this time of year is when you can get them to ball up and do that. And don't be afraid to drift that joker back. I see a lot of people that, and they'll see some fish by the boat. Those bigger snapper are going to be the farthest
That's
ones
right.
hanging out of the group or down on the bottom. Today, the guy, I had just a little small egg sinker on his bait. And the other guys were freelining, and part of that was because he got tangled twice. So I said, all right, I'm fixing this. So you're going down, you're going up, and we're good. But he's the one that was actually catching the bigger snapper than the other guys.
Yeah.
Because he was dropping down below us, and these guys were catching, some of the smaller fish. But you just got to play with it. I enjoy it. I like doing the chum deal, watching my machine, dialing all in, and when it all comes together, it's like a it's a symphony, man.
Well, those snappers, like take a cake to a playground. All those kids running around there playing. As soon as you start slicing cake, boom.
Yeah.
The mackerel.
Yeah,
or the snapper. I mean,
especially if it's chocolate cake with peanut butter.
Chocolate cake, baby. They come
I'm
and
on
get
that.
it.
I'm on that. But well, good question, Matt.
Give 'em some cake.
That was good to talk about. So anyway, guys, we got one more segment left. We're getting a finger from Tyler.
We're come on, man, with the next segment.
Come on, man. We're gonna nail it.
You're gonna nail it. You are gonna nail it. I heard about it for 50 minutes.
50 minutes, he says.
All right, we breaking?
Yeah, we're breaking. Take us out, Rick.
This is Tampa Fishing Outfitters Radio 1040. The team. We'll be right back.
Stop by Tampa Fishing Outfitters today and check out our O'Hero product line. Rods, reels, fluorocarbon lines, braided lines, hooks, and much more. Packed with an incredible inventory of over 10,000 items in stock, Tampa Fishing Outfitters is the perfect destination for any of your fishing needs. We also carry a great selection of sunglasses and fishing apparel. Our knowledgeable guides are here to answer all of your questions and to repair your rods and reels. Visit any of our 3 convenient locations for all of your fishing needs. Tampa Fishing Outfitters. If we don't have it, you don't need it.
And we're back. You're listening to Tampa Fishing Outfitters radio show on Sports Talk 1040 The Team. Myself, Captain Travis Yaeckel, and Big Dog, Big Country. Well, you've been out a couple weeks, Rick.
Yeah, 2 weeks
Good to have you back.
Well, yeah.
It was a
Thank
snafu.
you.
It was a snafu.
It was
snafu.
It was a
Rick.
mess up.
Rick had to paint his nails, so he couldn't make it in.
I went and got my pedicure, and I scheduled my pedicure for Tuesday, and didn't know we were doing the show on Tuesday last week. So.
Well, we're glad to have you, Bubba.
Well, hey,
we're glad to have you.
We're back, and we're wanting to hear some come on, man.
so here's my come on, man. And listen, guys, don't take this personal. I don't want to think like I'm talking smack about my clients, but I've had some kids on the boat over the last few days, and it's been wearing on me just a little bit. And so I had some good folks on the boat today. I went out, caught bait, did everything, got the boat all cleaned up, and I come back in. I mean, we're loaded down. Everything's cool. Jump on the boat after they walk through the parking lot. All right, I'll rinse that off. No problem. Man, this is a nice boat. Man, it's clean. Oh, man.
You got a nice boat, Captain
Fancy,
Travis.
baby. Fancy. So we get out there, and then, Rick, it was 20 minutes. Not even 20 minutes. Matt, you talking about how long to stay? Well, I about brought him back to the dock after the 6 mackerel come flying in the boat looking like a daggum freaking basketball player. I mean, here they come. Hey, guys, I'll grab them fish. Just, they're slimy. They poop everywhere. Remember that clean boat you liked when we left?
They didn't say they liked it. They just said it was nice and clean.
Dude, I had blood. I had guts. I had slime.
Slingshotting them mackerel in the boat.
Dude, here they come, buddy.
What I want to know is when the 7-pounder comes slingshotting in, did he land in that puddle of Pepsi or did what?
So
Was that
Little Willie?
Did he
Little
miss
Willie. I think little Willie was soccer practice with the daggum with Grandpa's Diet Coke Zeros, and I had more Diet Coke and 7-Up and Pepsi all over the daggum boat, son. I was washing the boat half the trip, and netting fish and slinging them in the cooler. And I thought it all went. We're done mackerel fishing.
Yeah.
We're done snapper. We're gonna catch some trout.
Yeah.
It's clean.
Yeah.
Good. Lunchtime. Let's have a sandwich. Let's bust out the fully loaded Publix subs with 4 pounds of lettuce and pickles and onions and
A whole grove of olives.
yeah. Little Willie had that. I don't know if Little Willie got more in his mouth or more on my deck, but I'm pretty sure I still got lettuce and the mullet.
Front of his boat looked like a salad bar.
Oh my gosh, son. It got bad there for a minute, man, but come on, man.
Come on, man.
I got back, dude. I spent an hour washing the boat and a quarter of it was necessary, you know?